Welcome back, everybody. My name is Grace, or Gibby, whatever you prefer, and today I'm here with a Gwen's Gauntlet video. What you're looking at now is my inventory. I'm going to just talk about it and my general idea for the setup before we get into the gameplay. It'll just be about 2 minutes, probably, unless I ramble. We'll see. But this was a 250 strength endurance luck build. Dizzle gave me the idea because he was like, 250 strength and luck is pretty much the weakest meta build. And I agree, I completely agree. So I was like, might be a fun challenge. So I just put together some warrior items and some specific items that I knew I'd need, and I called it a day. Starting off with the weapons, Mega Psycho Saber. It's a Death Loss weapon, it's a fire weapon. I was going to use the Death Loss for Rocky and a couple other things. I didn't end up using it that much, but I could have. Oath of Desire, a water weapon, boosts healing resistance, really useful for one of my armors. And shields, Divine Kusanagi Sword, auto hit wind weapon, save that for Sugar Gobbler and for Starslayer. Boreal Cavalier Great Axe, Brisburn for spiders. Could have used Kaisa, but I didn't have Kaisa on hand, and I was just putting together an inventory. Didn't want to go grab it. Twin Maul was my optimal damage weapon because you can have it do Bloodblade damage against bosses for SP. High Communicant's Grandeur, this is the SP Regain melee axe, nothing crazy. Timos Vengeance, I didn't need a dark weapon, so I just grabbed a random one. I wanted to showcase that I had the war version, just to flex, no big deal. I meant to get a no-drop weapon, like a Temp Adventurer one, but I don't think I used it. Armors, again, no-drop armor. I switched it out for the Mystery no-drop armor, which is a shadow armor, 40/40 neutraline. The Mystery, like, contradictory plate or whatever. Rage Beast, Fire Werewolf, I think it's like Fire Wind or something. Mark of Wrath, FO Wind armor. White Howler, Ice armor for Werewolf. I don't think I actually needed it, because there's no ice monsters in the Gauntlet, but I kind of forgot, so I just grabbed it. Eternal Champion Spirit, Earth armor, has an FD toggle, which was really important for Sugar Gobbler, and I could have used it for the Woolzards, but I didn't end up needing to. H series, self-explanatory. Initiative, super damage, celerity, angelic robes. Heal boosting is really good on warriors. Haters will say warriors have no good healing spells. Haters are wrong. Predator of the Night, dark energy werewolf form. I use this for Starslayer and just as my general dark armor. Angelic Robes is spellcaster lean and gives a 12.5% healing boost for the record. Shields, Fireworks Buckler, just compression, Weird Ward. A bunch of the bosses have attacks that are one hit, so I was going to use this as a Sword of Celerity turn. It lets me tank in an off-element armor for one turn against Rhubzard, Celestial Phoenix, Rocky, Sugar Gobbler, a couple others have one-hit attacks. Haunted Dragonlord's Will, SP Barrier, really good. Nightmare Omen, SP Barrier scales off Strength for HDL Shield. Nightmare Omen, SP Barrier scales off End, still really good. Chieftain's Ironthorn, self-explanatory. Umas and Aspis, helped for Bun Bun. And Eclipse Dragonsword Will, self-explanatory. As another SP Barrier. Spells, Essence of Carnage, mainly for damage boosting, a tiny bit for backlash. Pride Lord, I don't think I used it, maybe for Bun Bun. Skeeter is my Wind Guest for Shadow Rocky, HP upkeep instead of SP. Rising Nightmare, ice resistance based strength healing spell, really good. Loses out on some penalties and gets some extra multipliers, so it's just solid. Sisters of Mercy, my Ellie Shield healing spell for in case I got in a pickle, and for the Huntress with her Void Nuke. Miraculous Recovery, slightly underleveled end-based healing spell, SP cost, no big deal. Twilly, Healing Guest, I don't think I used it even once, maybe I used it once or twice. Pinata Pummel, strength-based burst SP spell for water. I didn't end up using it, but I meant to use it for a couple of things, but I didn't need it. It was just, it's less efficient than attacking normally. Pets, Anger Linorm, obviously. Scathing Dreamseer, Scuffed SP regen pet. SP regens SP if you're below half SP. I used it a couple times. Baby Egg, just a good pet. Spotted Drake, potency. Ghost Hound, I was going to do some fear eating, but then I didn't feel like it. I kind of forgot I had it. Leprechaun, I kind of forgot that I didn't have any light effects, because I was going to bring Paladin at one point, but then I was like, I don't need a tier 3 armor. Tier 3s are a crutch. Skill issue. Anyways, Fairy Godmother, self-explanatory. Gyro Symbiote, defensive play when I'm not using Baby Egg. Misc items, Essence Orb, really good. I'll talk about Essence Orb in a minute. Power Sword, 6 Hog. It's my cheap strength boosting misc. I think it's like 30 SP or 40 SP for plus 40 strength. There's other options, but I like this one. Shadow Feeder Pendant, just good. Kitsune Mask, used it for Phoenix. Pearl of Power, used it for Rhubzard and for the Bun Bun stun phase. Divine Yaskani Jewel, used it for the Huntress and for heal boosting because it also gives heal resistance. 16th Birthday Cake is an Earth Misc and it's an SP option. It is perma-rare, but Brain Rack does the same thing, but it's water. I needed an Earth Misc. I would have used Bell Shell if I didn't have this, and it would have been about the same. Shikyo Mask, random Dark Res Misc. That's pretty much it for the items. Now, what I ended up doing was spamming a bunch of barriers and angelic robes with melee boosters and healing resistance items. The Oath of Desire weapon, the Divine Yaskani Jewel Misc, and Essence Orb fueled that. There were only 2 monsters where I actually needed Essence Orb though, like more than 400 SP a turn. So if Essence Orb gets nerfed, the only monsters that have to change are Bun Banneret and Starslayer. Aside from that, filling up my whole SP bar just made the kills faster. I could have done the exact same thing I did, but just take like 3 or 4 turns to do it, and it would have been just as good. So, although I used Essence Orb a ton in this run, I wouldn't call it Essence Orb Crutch, I would call it Essence Orb Time Save. If it's nerfed, everything but Bun Bun and Starslayer will be the same, just 3 or 4 turns, maybe 5 or 10 turns slower. But yeah, let's get into the gameplay. I have some commentary ready, so here we go. Starting off with Sugar Gobbler, H series for extra damage, auto hit weapon of course, because its MRM is really high. I used Eternal Champion in FD mode with an Earth Misc and CIT as my shields, because why not? Also I had EOC and Angry Linnorm, mainly for damage boost and backlash, because backlash auto hits when it inflicts, so it ignores the MRM. Then I got tired of that and started barrier stacking with Angelic and my heal resistance setup. You can see how strong it was just really good, and then I did a bit of heal looping. But once I started the barrier stacking, I realized that probably just removing Essence of Carnage and Angry Linnorm, because they were kind of a waste because I didn't get the backlash anymore. I still got the damage boost, but the fastest way would just be auto-attacking the boss down and then healing up as needed. Essence of Carnage and Angry Linnorm do boost the barrier power because it's melee damage. Same with the healing resistance items, and of course the HDL shields are quick cast, so I could do it all in one turn in Angelic Robes, swap back to my FD setup. Then it was as simple as just whittling them down. I dropped EOC and Angra in the end, so I could just run Spotted Drake for that Earth damage reduction and save on SP, so I didn't have to spam Essence Orb. I could have used Gyro Symbiote, but it had a high daze rate because I have 0 dex, so I didn't want to. But in hindsight, I was thinking about it. It probably would have been fine because it would have missed almost like 95% of its attacks against Sugar Gobbler because of the high MRM. So I could have used Gyro Symbiote, and it wouldn't have dazed me pretty much at all. Eternal Champ also has a small passive SP boost to basic regen, so it made it a little bit smoother. Werewolf would work too. It has HP regen and SP regen, but it's fully offensive, so I would have been taking way more damage, like 50% more damage. I would have been dealing more damage too, but I figured the defensive setup was worth it. Okay, so for Rhubzard, I forgot a water armor. I could have switched out the white howler for it, but I wasn't thinking very much. So I knew I had to pull something out to blast him pretty hard before he could kill me. First I made a barrier, angelic ropes. Again, you can see how strong the barrier is. I nuked an H series for one turn with celerity, then I used weird word for the auto dodge, so he couldn't steal my attacks or do water damage. Then it was his SP attack, so I had 2 more turns on H series, doing full damage, tanked it because it's energy. If he doesn't steal anything, his steal attack is energy, and finally, 1 more celerity turn, finished him off, so I didn't have to tank any water hits. Could have killed me, but it didn't. Silk Screamers aren't anything too crazy. I'll wait until the max level one to talk about them, which is going to be a lot later in the video. So as I mentioned earlier, Bun Bun was one of the only bosses where I actually needed Essence Orb, and it didn't just speed things up, I needed it to fuel the celerity in the beast form. But the kill started off, I was just stacking barrier and heal looping for several turns, and I used the Dreamweaver pet to manage my SP. After I got full resources, I started DPSing the boss, using Pearl of Power as a stun with some potency options, Umas and Aspis, obviously, the 20 paralyzed potency. Twin Maul would have worked, but it's bugged, so I didn't really want to use it because it's like bugged to be OP. During turns where Bun was immune to damage, like right after the stun, I used a healing spell, and this was the reason I needed EO, because I needed celerity and beast form to nuke him down fully, and it's just not sustainable without Essence Orb abuse. It might have worked in H series, I didn't actually try it, I don't think. But I think I needed the beast form to be earth damage and whatnot. So if EO is nerfed, I'll have to optimize the method in some way. Using Magna Blade or something in an Earthlock's armor would be pretty good because Twin Maul costs more SP, Magna Blade doesn't. But there's lots of options. The Huntress wasn't too bad at all. I tanked her void attacks with angelic robes plus heal res barriers. And I also used Chiaro for her void attacks when I remembered, and Sisters of Mercy for an Ellie shield, just to reduce that damage as much as possible. I wasn't worried about tanking the attack in a spellcaster lean instead of FD, because void and harm damage aren't affected by armor lean. So yeah, I wasn't worried about that. Then I simply just attacked her with an earth weapon and a wind defensive mist, Mark of Wrath, slowly took her down. She wasn't too much work. She's one of the easier bosses, but I think she's a good addition because she counters dodge, so if you go in after a spider on a dodge build, you might just get one banged by the void attacks. So I think she's a good addition to the Gauntlet, even though for most builds she's pretty easy. Thunderbird wasn't bad at all. I used a few barriers here and there. And then I just whacked her down in each series with a water weapon. That also boosted my base SP regen, since heal res affects SP regen. I was using the Oath of Desire as my water weapon. It was pretty efficient, not super fast, but simple. When I got extra SP, I used it on barriers. And eventually I switched to the Werewolf because Werewolf has base health regen and base SP regen built in, and a strength drive, so it's just really efficient for basic attacking. Whenever I got imbued, I just used a healing spell, and at the end of the kill, I spent a good amount of time heal looping just to restore resources. Next up was Celestial Phoenix. Wasn't too bad at all. I used barriers and casual heal looping in the werewolf armor. People say the werewolf healing spell is bad. I really don't agree. It just scales off end, which is fine. It doesn't have an always useful penalty because it's locked to an armor, so like it's objectively like better than raw healing spells because it has one less penalty. Of course, it's worse than like using it in Spellcaster Lean, but Spellcaster Lean is OP. Everything's worse than that. The kill was pretty slow. I used the Tree Mover pet to manage my SP, even though Phoenix has negative fire resistance, because the SP heal isn't affected by that. And it was mostly missing because I had no charisma or dexterity. But in hindsight, I probably should have just used Essence Storm a bit more and had Baby Egg or something to make it go a little faster. The first phase I took really slow. I made sure to stay high HP and have some barriers. I could have gone a lot faster, but I played it safe. And for the second phase, I kept attacking it down with a fire defensive misc and some barriers left over. Baby Egg also really works hard on the second phase because it has like 4 hit count or something, or 3. So it gets triple the impact compared to the first phase. Baorus wasn't anything too complicated. The Werewolf no drop has light resistance, but it's 42 compared to 39. So I didn't really want to use it because that would be a notable increase in like the power of the poison he inflicts because it's based off your light resistance. Angelic Robes is also not ideal because it's 40, not 39, but 1 resistance I wasn't going to make a big deal about. But it probably wouldn't have been about the same overall. I had the Communicant weapon for SP regen. I just used it, and Super Psycho Saber for def loss to be a little bit more reliable, but also just for style points too. But it did help. I also used it to lower my SP so the Dreamweaver pet would actually do something with the healing attack and not do the damage attack. Again, since it only heals SP if you're under half SP total. I messed up one time and had the wrong shield on equipped, so I took a 3x power poison, and that was so strong that I had to spend like 10 or 15 turns heal looping. It added like at least 5 minutes to the kill. Yeah, but the barriers really help with Baorus because with barriers he doesn't heal from the poison, so it just made it really smooth. Again, except when I tanked in the wrong resistance by accident. Yeah, and then I got back to pretty high resources until I was fine. I'd be taking on the next monster. The max level Silk Screamer. I'll talk about all the Silk Screamers. For the low level ones, you can just hit them, they die, no big deal. For the medium high level ones, I played it quite defensive. I used Baby Egg, a Dark Mist, and whatever Dark Armor I felt like to take really low damage, and I spent a long time building up barriers in Angelic Robes and then heal looping back to full HP. And the reason I did that is because the barriers last into the third phase when you lose SP and MP. So it would protect me when the boss has like that 1.5x damage increase. I definitely overkilled it on the barriers for the level 150. I could do a lot less as like a time save in the future, but I'm not too worried about it. I just did basic attacks. Werewolf's great for basic attacking, as I said. SP regen weapon is nice as well. I really enjoy those weapons. For the Prismatic Burn, I used the Boreal Cavalier Axe. You could totally use Kaisa. I just didn't have it on hand, so I used Boreal Cavalier Axe, even though it's a rare. Another thing I did for some of them was a trick that Jean figured out. If you cast a quick cast spell in another armor, the choke goes away. And I did that for at least one of the boss fights using Angelic Robes and an HDL shield. So that I could go back into Werewolf, because Werewolf is higher damage than Contradictory Plate. But yeah, so I got some more Werewolf attacks in with that trick, but otherwise nothing too crazy. The barriers carried me through the third phase after I spent time building them up in the first phase. Rocky was after a spider, which isn't optimal, but it wasn't a big deal. Even without the Essence Orb to full SP like twice, I would have been fine. It just would have taken me a bit longer. I think I ended up taking 0 damage from Rocky that kill because of the barrier strength, but having extra SP for the H series attack at the beginning and more barriers quicker was definitely helpful. So it would be a little bit harder without Essence Orb, but not really much. Here I used the Death Loss skill from Psycho Saber, but I forgot I needed my Wind Guest, so I didn't do it that much in the future. I could have, because you get 1 turn of leeway in the phase where you have to hit him with wind attacks. I think there's like 4 turns where he's attacks and you only need to hit him with wind for 3 of them, or something like that. But I just didn't think to do that. Then whenever I had time, and Rocky was on low defense and or it had no defense boost, I used H series with the Twin Maul on damage mode. Very simple kill. The no drop shadow armor from the mystery quest was more than good enough. Contradictory plate does the job. Woolzard and Shiny Woolzard are back to back, so I'll just talk about it once. Pretty easy in theory. I grabbed some barriers, set myself up in Werewolf, and got ready to just attack it with a fire weapon because it takes double damage from fire. The only thing was I got stun locked for 8 turns in a row, which I'm pretty sure was very unlikely and unlucky. And it made me a little nervous, but luckily pre-stacking barriers counters that, getting randomly stun locked like perfectly. So I was completely fine. Both the kills went pretty much the same. There wasn't anything too crazy aside from that one 8-turn stun lock. Woolzard's definitely scary though because of the RNG component. Without endurance and without barrier stacking, I might have actually just lost a run to that 8-turn stun lock. So definitely I'm going to be more appreciative of that if I do a 0-end run or like a full FO, no endurance run or whatever. Woolzard's definitely a scary guy. Finishing off the Gauntlet is Starslayer. Right after a spider, pretty much what you don't want. I calculated his odds of winning initiative against H series. It was a 6% chance if I didn't mess up. It was a 6% chance for him to win if I didn't like go in the wrong armor or something. If he got really lucky, won the 6% initiative, stun locked me with his daze, then celerity attacked me with dark for 2 turns, I definitely could have died, but all that happening would have been very, very unlikely, so I feel pretty confident about the method. I used Predator of Night after my celerity turn, which is a dark energy compression armor, and that made it so I would be really, really unlikely to die to RNG. Essence of Carnage and Anger Linnorm also provide backlash, and I used an auto hit weapon, so once I won initiative, it was pretty much over for him. He's a great addition to the Gauntlet though, and he definitely adds a lot more that players need to prepare for, in my opinion. As I mentioned at the beginning, this boss was also the only other boss than Bun Banneret where I actually needed all that SP from Essence Orb in 1 turn, since I would have been locked out from getting it in the future, so I wouldn't have had those barriers stacked up, and I wouldn't have had all that SP to use Beast Form. If EO does get nerfed to 400 SP a turn, I would have to change the Starslayer method a little bit, or rely a little bit more on good RNG. But that's pretty much the Gauntlet. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope some of this was informative. Yeah, have a great day. Spread some peace and love. Take good care of yourself. Bye-bye.